Have you ever listened to a city take its final breath? Not a sudden gasp, not a violent explosion, but a slow, agonizing rattle. The kind of death that creeps up through the sewers, seeps into the tap water, and hides behind the polite smiles of your neighbors. Welcome to Raccoon City. September 1998. Look at the streets. Do they seem normal to you? The autumn chill is just beginning to bite. The neon signs hum with a gentle electrical warmth. Children are asleep in their beds. The police are patrolling the quiet avenues. It looks like the American dream, doesn't it? A tranquil Midwestern town nestled at the foot of the Arklay Mountains. A town built by the benevolent hand of the Umbrella Corporation. But what hides beneath the surface of a dream? Nightmares. For months, the local papers have whispered of the cannibal murders in the woods, hikers disappearing, families found torn apart. The authorities blamed wild animals, feral dogs, a rogue cult. Did they really believe that? Or was it just easier to look away? The citizens of Raccoon City chose silence. They chose the comfort of routine. They chose to believe that the darkness in the mountains would stay in the mountains. But darkness is like water. It always finds a way down. The T-virus was no longer a secret kept in an underground laboratory. It was already in the soil. It was in the rats. It was in the blood of the city. And time was running out. Let us step out of the cold street. Let us push open the heavy wooden doors of Jazz Bar. Can you hear the soft jazz playing from the jukebox? Can you smell the stale beer, the cigarette smoke, the faint scent of rain on leather jackets? It is an ordinary Tuesday night. The patrons are ordinary people. They are not elite soldiers. They are not highly trained STARS operatives with military-grade weapons. They are just like you. Sitting at the counter, nursing a drink, is Kevin Ryman. A police officer with a good heart but a reckless streak. He applied for the elite STARS unit twice. He failed. Twice. Does he know that his failures just saved his life? Does he know that most of the elite team is already dead? Tonight, his badge will not be a symbol of authority. It will be a target. Moving gracefully between the tables is Cindy Lennox, the waitress. She always has a bright smile. She always remembers your favorite order. In a few hours, the world will demand she trade her serving tray for a weapon. Will her kindness be her salvation or her downfall? In the corner, a large man sits quietly. Mark Bingham, a security guard, a veteran of the Vietnam War. He moved to Raccoon City for peace, a quiet place to raise a family. But war has a way of finding the men who try to outrun it. Can he protect these strangers the way he protected his brothers in arms? Or is this a war that cannot be won with bullets? At a booth nearby, George Hamilton rubs his tired eyes. A skilled surgeon, a man of science. He has spent his life saving people from disease. But how do you cure a disease that brings the dead back to life? What happens to a doctor's oath when the only way to save a life is to take one? Listen to the complaints echoing from the bar stools. That is Jim Chapman, a subway worker. He is anxious, complaining about his boss, complaining about the puzzles of his daily life. He is a man who relies on his intuition, on his luck. But how much luck does a man need to survive the end of the world? And who is that man in the shadows? David King, a plumber, silent, brooding. He carries a toolbox, but his hands look like they know how to dismantle more than just pipes. He speaks to no one. He trusts no one. Will he learn to rely on others, or will the lone wolf die alone? Sitting near the window is Alyssa Ashcroft, an investigative reporter. She has an ego, a sharp tongue, and a relentless drive for the truth. She has been sniffing around the Umbrella Corporation. looking for the scoop of a lifetime. But what happens when the truth you seek is the very thing that wants to eat you alive? Finally, sitting quietly in the back is Yoko Suzuki, a university student. Small, unassuming, but her eyes hold a vacant stare. Amnesia. Her mind is a locked vault, but buried deep within her missing memories are the darkest secrets of the Umbrella Corporation. Does she even know what she is carrying? Does she know that she is the key to it all? 8 strangers, 8 ordinary lives, all brought together in a smoky bar on the last normal night in history. Why them? Was it fate? Or just cruel, blind chance? The jazz music continues to play. The bartender, Will, wipes down a glass. Someone complains about the weather. A rat scurries across the alleyway outside. The clock on the wall ticks. Tick, tick, tick. Then, the heavy wooden doors of Jay's bar rattle. Not a gentle push. A heavy, clumsy thud. Like a sack of wet meat thrown against the wood. The patrons pause. The jazz music seems to fade into the background. Will, the bartender, sets down his rag. He walks toward the door. He turns the handle. Why do we always open the door? Why are we so drawn to the things that will destroy us? The door swings open. A man stumbles inside. His clothes are torn. His head hangs low. He groans, a wet, guttural sound that does not belong in a human throat. Will reaches out. "Hey buddy, you okay? You need a doctor?" The man lunges. Teeth sink into flesh. Blood sprays across the polished mahogany of the bar. Will screams. A sound of pure, unadulterated agony that shatters the illusion of safety forever. The patrons freeze. Disbelief. Shock. Then the window shatters. Dozens of hands, gray and rotting, reach through the broken glass. The moans multiply. The street outside is no longer empty. It is a sea of shuffling, ravenous corpses. The outbreak has begun. The 8 strangers look at each other. The differences between them vanish. Cop, waitress, doctor, plumber. None of it matters anymore. In the face of absolute death, there is only one rule: survive. But they cannot do it alone. The T-virus is a force of nature. It does not negotiate. It does not tire. To escape Jay's bar, to escape Raccoon City, these ordinary people will have to forge an unbreakable bond. They will have to share their ammunition, heal each other's wounds, and cover each other's backs. Because the monsters outside are not just hungry. They are everywhere. The door gives way. The horde pours into the bar. The smell of rotting copper fills the room. What would you do? Would you fight? Would you run? Or would you simply close your eyes and let the darkness take you? The glass shatters. The heavy wood splinters under the weight of the dead. The screams of Will the bartender are suddenly swallowed by the wet, tearing sounds of teeth scraping against bone. What is the sound of a city dying? It is not a sudden, dramatic explosion. It is the collective gasp of 1,000 people realizing, all at once, that the end has arrived. Inside Jay's bar, the air instantly grows thick. The familiar, comforting smell of cheap beer and roasted peanuts is violently replaced by the sharp, metallic tang of fresh blood. Look at our 8 strangers. What do they do in this precise second? Do they freeze? Do they drop to their knees and weep? No. The human instinct to survive is a primal, roaring fire. It burns away the shock. It sears through the panic. Kevin Ryman, the failed STARS applicant, draws his service weapon. The heavy steel of his 1911 handgun feels different in his grip tonight. It is no longer a tool of the law used to intimidate petty thieves. It is a desperate instrument of survival. He aims into the swelling crowd of rotting faces. He fires. The muzzle flash illuminates the dark room for a fraction of a second, freezing the nightmare in a strobe light tableau. The deafening crack temporarily drowns out the guttural groaning. A body falls, but two more immediately step over it, their dead eyes fixed on the living warmth inside the room. Mark Bingham, the aging security guard, does not have a gun, but he has his immense strength. He grabs a heavy, solid oak bar stool. His massive arms swing it like a terrible pendulum. The wood connects with the skull of a former patron, a man Mark probably nodded a polite greeting to just 20 minutes ago. The skull gives way. How fast does civilization crumble? It takes less than a minute. A few seconds of violence and thousands of years of human evolution are erased. They are forced to fall back. Up the narrow, creaking stairs leading to the staff quarters, away from the slaughter. Cindy Lennox trembles as she climbs, her neat waitress uniform now stained with the crimson blood of a man she had tried to pull to safety. George Hamilton, the doctor, gently grabs her arm on the landing. He quickly, clinically evaluates the wound on her shoulder. It is not a bite, just a deep scratch from the shattered window glass. For now, she is safe. But what does safety even mean in a world that has suddenly lost its mind? They reach the top floor. They push open the heavy metal door leading to the roof. The cold, biting autumn wind hits their faces, carrying with it the scent of ash. Walk to the edge of the roof with them. Look out over the ledge. Look at Raccoon City. It is no longer the quiet, picturesque Midwestern town of their childhoods. It has become a vast canvas of fire and moving shadows. Plumes of thick black smoke rise into the night sky, blotting out the moon and the stars. Sirens wail in the distance, a chaotic off-key symphony of pure panic. Do you see the police barricades down on Main Street? The desperate flashing of blue and red lights cutting through the fog. They are being overrun. The defensive line has broken. The officers are firing wildly into the dark, screaming for backup that will never arrive. The dark is moving. The dark is hungry. Alyssa Ashcroft, the investigative reporter, looks at the burning skyline. She knows the name behind this inferno, Umbrella. The pharmaceutical giant that paid for the beautiful parks, funded the police department, and built the pristine schools. How many times did the people of this city say, "Thank you, Umbrella"? How many times did they unknowingly trade their safety for comfortable jobs and quiet, manicured streets? Now, the Umbrella Corporation is collecting its debt, and the price is being paid in flesh. Alyssa snaps a photo with her camera. The flash is a tiny, insignificant spark against the towering inferno. Will anyone ever see this picture? Or will it burn to ashes in her pocket? This is not a movie. There are no heroes coming to save them from the roof. The elite stars team is gone, scattered, or dead. The military blockade is miles away, sealing them inside the tomb. They are entirely alone, but they are together. This is the cruelest, most demanding joke of the outbreak. You cannot survive alone. The city is too hostile. But every person you travel with is a liability. Every person is a potential monster waiting to turn. David King, the silent plumber, tightens his grip on a heavy steel wrench. He glances at Yoko Suzuki. She is small, fragile, staring blankly at the fires. She is a burden. But can he leave her behind? Can a man live with himself if he trades his humanity for a few more hours of breath? They must cooperate. They must share the unbearable weight of survival. They must pool their meager, scavenged resources. A single green herb found in a cracked ceramic pot. A half-empty box of handgun bullets hidden in a manager's desk. When resources are completely finite, who gets to live? Who decides who gets the medicine and who gets left in the dark? They begin their descent. down the rusted fire escape, down into the suffocating alleyways. The streets are slick with rain, motor oil, and worse things. The shadows stretch and distort sickeningly in the flickering light of burning cars. They move slowly. Every step is a calculated risk. Every blind corner hides a potential nightmare. And the walking dead are not the only things to fear in the dark. Have you ever looked a dog in the eyes? A loyal companion. Man's best friend. What happens when the T-virus infects a dog? The flesh rots away from the snout. The muscle tears and hangs loose. But the predatory pack instinct remains. It is amplified into something demonic. The infected Dobermans, the Cerberus, they do not shuffle like the dead humans. They run. They hunt in packs. A low, vibrating growl echoes from the darkness of an overturned shipping container. A pair of glowing, milky eyes appears in the blackness. Then another, and another. The clicking of their claws on the wet asphalt sounds like a ticking clock. Alyssa Ashcroft raises her weapon. Her hands shake violently. She is a journalist. She's supposed to report the news, to write the truth, not to shoot it. Can she pull the trigger? Can she kill something that used to be an innocent animal? They fight. They bleed. They run. And with every cut, with every scrape, with every desperate breath of contaminated air, something else happens. Something invisible and insidious. Look at their wrists. Look at the faint blue veins pulsing just under their skin. The T-virus is not just in the teeth of the dead. It is in the stagnant water they splashed through in the alley. It is in the blood that sprayed across their faces. It is in the very dust they breathe. They are all infected. Did you know that? Every single one of them. The virus is already inside their bloodstreams. A microscopic time bomb ticking away with every beat of their hearts. This is the true, inescapable horror of their journey. It is not just a desperate race against the monsters roaming the outside world. It is a silent, agonizing race against the monster growing inside them. The infection gauge. It slowly, steadily climbs. 1%, 2%, 5%. With every physical exertion, with every heavy blow they take, with every second they spend bleeding, the virus spreads faster. If it reaches 100%, they do not just die. They become the very thing they are running from. They join the horde. How do you fight a war when the enemy is in your own blood? They frantically scavenge for blue herbs. They search dead paramedics for antiviral pills. Anything to slow the spread. Jim Chapman finds a plastic pill bottle in the back of an abandoned ambulance. He clutches it to his chest like a holy relic. He dry swallows 2 pills. He feels the cold sweat temporarily recede. But for how long? There is no cure here in the streets. There is only a brief delay of the inevitable. They push forward, seeking shelter underground, through the shattered turnstiles and into the abandoned subway tunnels. The dark, concrete veins of Raccoon City. The darkness down here is absolute. It presses heavily against their eyes. It feels like it is suffocating them. Have you ever been completely in the dark? The kind of dark where you cannot see your own hand trembling in front of your face. In that profound darkness, the mind plays cruel tricks. Every drop of water sounds like a stealthy footstep. Every gust of wind rushing through the tunnel sounds like a whispered threat. Jim Chapman mutters to himself, the echo bouncing off the tiled walls. He flips his lucky coin in the dark. Heads or tails, life or death. He is a man who knows these specific tunnels. He used to sweep these very platforms. He used to complain about the rats. Now, the rats are the least of his worries. The rats are fleeing too, squeaking in terror as they run past the survivors' boots. What are the rats running from? what terrifies the creatures that live in the dark. They find an old stationary subway car. The doors have been forcefully pried open. It is empty. For now, they step inside, their boots crunching on broken glass. They collapse onto the hard plastic seats. For a moment, there is silence. The moans of the dead above are muffled by feet of thick concrete and earth. They look at each other. 8 exhausted, terrified faces illuminated by the faint, dying glow of the emergency battery lights. They survived Jay's bar. They survived the burning streets, but the night is far from over. Raccoon City is a sprawling, multi-layered labyrinth of death. Above them, the Apple Inn is consumed by a towering inferno. The Raccoon General Hospital has become a blood-soaked slaughterhouse. The city zoo is a locked menagerie of mutated, colossal nightmares. Which path will they be forced to take? Which nightmare will they have to face next? And as they sit in the dark, listening only to the sound of their own ragged breathing, a noise echoes from deep within the black tunnel. A heavy, dragging footstep. The sickening scrape of sharp metal on concrete. Something large is coming towards the train in the dark. Something that does not moan. Something that breathes with a heavy, wet, and deliberate purpose. Will they find the strength to stand up and fight again? Or is this cold subway car where the journey ends? Listen to the dark. Do you hear the scraping against the cold subway tiles? It is a heavy, rhythmic sound, like a butcher dragging a rusted meat hook across a concrete floor. The 8 survivors hold their breath inside the abandoned train car. The emergency lights flicker, casting long, trembling shadows across their exhausted faces. Jim Chapman grips his lucky coin tightly. The metal bites into his palm. What approaches them in the absolute blackness? Is it another human? No. Humanity has been evicted from the underground. From the shadows, a grotesque silhouette emerges. It is not a walking corpse. It is an insect, a flea. But the T-virus does not respect the laws of nature. It mocks them. The megabyte is the size of a wolf, its bloated abdomen pulsing with stolen blood. Its mandibles click with a sickening wet snap. And it is not alone. The walls are crawling with them, a swarm of parasitic nightmares drawn to the heat of living flesh. Can you imagine the suffocating terror of a confined space filled with monsters? They break the glass. They run. They abandon the false sanctuary of the train, sprinting through the flooded maintenance tunnels, the murky water slowing their desperate footsteps. They climb a rusted service ladder, pushing open a heavy iron grate, gasping for the tainted surface air. But Raccoon City is a house of many horrors. You do not escape the nightmare. You merely trade it for another. They emerge onto the shattered pavement in front of a massive, imposing structure. The Raccoon General Hospital. Look at the ironically pristine white sign. A place of healing. A place where life is preserved. George Hamilton, the doctor, stares at the glass doors. He knows these halls. He knows the smell of the antiseptic, the hum of the fluorescent lights. But what happens when the hospital becomes a nest? They enter the lobby. It is a slaughterhouse. Gurneys are overturned in pools of drying blackened blood. The emergency room is a graveyard of good intentions. But the dead doctors and nurses are not the true terror of this place. Have you ever felt a parasite? A small unseen thing draining your life away? Deep within the subterranean levels of the hospital, something is waiting. The Leech Man. Imagine a human silhouette. Now look closer. The skin is not skin. It is a shifting, writhing mass of thousands of blood-gorged leeches. They have consumed a man, taking his shape, operating his bones like a fleshy marionette. You cannot shoot a swarm. Kevin Ryman empties his magazine into the creature's chest. The bullets pass through, tearing a hole in the mass, but the leeches simply flow back together, sealing the wound instantly. The creature does not flinch. It does not feel pain. It only feels hunger. How do you kill a monster that has no heart to pierce? They must run again. They must use fire. They must use the hospital's own chemical supplies to melt the abomination. It is a terrifying game of cat and mouse, through blood-slicked corridors, the wet, slithering sound of the leechman always just one corner behind them. Every second they spend running, the virus gauge ticks higher. 10%, 20%. They escape the hospital only to find the streets entirely blockaded by the wreckage of military vehicles. The only path forward is through the opulent, towering structure of the Apple Inn. The hotel was meant to be a luxurious escape. Now it is a blazing furnace. The boiler room has ruptured. The lower floors are a raging inferno. The heat is absolute. It singes their hair and blisters their skin. But the fire is not the predator. The fire is just the cage. Look up. Look at the ceiling of the burning hallway. A creature hangs inverted in the smoke. The liquor. Its brain is fully exposed, a grotesque, pulsing mass of mutated tissue. It has no eyes. The virus has stripped away its sight to amplify its hearing. Its tongue, a razor-sharp whip of muscle, slithers from its jaw. Do you dare to take a step? Do you dare to let out a breath? In the Apple Inn, silence is the only armor. Cindy Lennox covers her mouth, her eyes wide with unspeakable dread, as she steps over the charred remains of a guest. A piece of glass crunches under her boot. The liquor's head snaps toward the sound, a blind, terrifying focus. The hotel becomes an agonizing test of nerve, walking at a snail's pace while the flames consume the walls around them. The unbearable heat pushing their infection gauges higher. 30%, 40%. If they run from the fire, the liquors will hear them and tear them apart. If they stay silent, the fire will consume them. Which death would you choose? They survive the inferno by a fraction of an inch, tumbling out of a shattered fire escape into the cold night air. But the city is relentless. Their stumbling path leads them to the heavy iron gates of the Raccoon City Zoo, a place where families once walked with ice cream cones, a place where children marveled at the majesty of nature. What does a corporate bioweapon do to the majesty of nature? It defiles it. The cages are broken. The concrete enclosures are shattered. Alyssa Ashcroft grips her camera, but she does not take a picture. Some horrors are too tragic to capture. Can you hear the heavy, earth-shaking footsteps? Oscar, the zoo's star attraction, an African elephant, but Oscar is no longer a gentle giant. The T-virus has warped him into a lumbering engine of decay. His skin is sloughing off in massive gray sheets. His eyes are milky, dead orbs. His trunk flails blindly, capable of crushing a car with a single blow. Have you ever heard the trumpeting of an elephant in agony? It is a sound that vibrates in your bones. It is the sound of the natural world screaming in protest against the arrogance of humanity. The survivors are forced to navigate the overgrown paths of the terrarium, hiding from mutated lionesses that hunt with demonic coordination. The flora itself has turned against them. Giant, infected plants spit poisonous spores into the humid air. Nature has become the enemy, and their own bodies are betraying them. Look at Yoko Suzuki. Look at David King. Their faces are pale. Their veins are turning a sickening shade of black. The infection gauge is climbing. 60%, 75%. This is where the true test of cooperation begins. It is not just about shooting monsters. It is about inventory. it is about sacrifice. Mark Bingham finds a single precious antiviral pill. He looks at his own gauge. It is at 80%. He is close to turning. He's close to becoming a monster. But he looks at Yoko. She is small, coughing blood. Her gauge is at 85. What does a man do? Does he save himself? Or does he offer his only lifeline to a stranger? Take this, Mark whispers, his deep voice cracking. He presses the pill into her trembling hand. This is the agonizing beauty of the outbreak. In the darkest, most depraved corners of hell, the smallest act of human kindness shines like a blinding star. They carry each other. When Kevin runs out of bullets, David throws him a spare magazine. When Alyssa is poisoned by a mutated plant, George uses his medical knowledge to mix a healing poultice from scavenged herbs. They are bound together by an invisible thread of shared suffering. If one of them falls, the thread breaks. If one of them turns, the others will surely die. They manage to escape the zoo, limping toward the Raccoon University, the final bastion, the last hope for an evacuation chopper. But as they look up at the night sky, hoping to see the blinking lights of a rescue helicopter, they see something else. The sky is changing color. A deep, unnatural red is bleeding through the clouds at the edge of the city limits. The military blockade is not trying to contain the virus anymore. They have realized containment is impossible. A different kind of thunder is rumbling on the horizon, not a storm. Not a monster, a missile. The countdown has begun. Will they find a way out before the government erases Raccoon City from the map forever? Look at the sky over Raccoon City. It is no longer black, but painted in the violent chemical reds of a sterilization protocol. The government has made its choice. The Operation Bacillus Terminate is authorized. A thermobaric missile is already slicing through the atmosphere, counting down the last heartbeats of the city. Our 8 survivors stand before the gates of Raccoon University, a place that Yoko Suzuki suddenly remembers as an umbrella research hub. Deep below, a rogue scientist has unleashed his masterpiece, Thanatos, a tyrant designed as a perfect biological god of death. It stands over 12 feet tall, an engineered predator that feels no mercy and no exhaustion. How do ordinary people fight a god? They don't. They run. With their infection gauges pairing a lethal 95%, the T-virus is singing a dark lullaby in their blood. Their only hope is a theoretical cure called daylight. To create it, they must separate in the dark, gathering V poison and T blood, while Thanatos stalks the halls. They are no longer strangers, but a single organism fighting for one last breath of clean air. They synthesize the cure and lure the tyrant into the courtyard. As the missile screams overhead, they fire the daylight compound into the monster's chest. The perfect weapon shatters at a cellular level, screaming as it falls, but the clock is at 0. They scramble into a lone rescue helicopter just as the missile impacts. A blinding white light erases Raccoon City from the map, turning skyscrapers to dust and scenes to ash. As they fly into the cold dawn, they administer the cure to themselves, watching the dark veins recede from their skin. They survived the outbreak, but they are changed forever. The physical virus is gone, but the trauma is an infection with no cure. They are the silent bearers of a memory umbrella tried to bury in nuclear fire. The nightmare of Raccoon City is over, but the silent horror of survival has only just begun. I hope this journey through the shadows has finally allowed you to let go. If you enjoyed wandering with me tonight, please subscribe, leave a comment, and share this video. If you enjoyed the video, I invite you to subscribe. and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the stories I'll be uploading. This is History and Fiction for Sleep. May your dreams be peaceful. Good night.